Well, hello! It's Romania Black, and we are on episode 4 of Journal with Witch, and hopefully I won't cry today. Episode 3 was a lot. Episode 3 was layered, and I shed some tears, and I haven't done that in an anime in a while, and it was like, okay, Journal with Witch is not messing around, not one bit. So we're on episode 4. I have a couple comments I want to talk about before we get started, but I am so intrigued. The rule of 3 episodes in an anime to get you hooked. Well, I mean, I was by episode 1, but 2 and 3 have been phenomenal. So I've really enjoyed everyone's comments. I'm glad that everyone is excited to see this show as I am. It's such a strange show to have hype, because usually your hype anime are like big explosions and like all the shonen stuff and schlock and everything else. And this is like, do you want to, ProZD, who is an English voice actor, and he has a YouTube channel, and I love his content. He's so funny. But he had a short, they were like, oh, here's this crazy anime. And he's like, okay. And they're like, do you want to watch Journal with Witch? He's like, F yeah. And I was like, I absolutely relate to that. So it was great. So, but yeah, let's talk about these comments before we dive into episode 4. I'm going to say this name wrong, and I apologize ahead of time, and you can laugh at how horribly I pronounce it and muse at my pronunciation skills. But Debajit Hamik. Debajit Bahamik. Is that right? Maybe, possibly. 3841. For episode 1 says, the fact that this is Morifuko, Asa's VA's first anime voice acting role is incredibly impressive. For Asa's VA, this to be her debut in anime, like, girl, get your flowers. She's fantastic. I think she captures like a 15-year-old's like wonder, and kind of like, she plays an innocent 15-year-old, because I know some 15-year-olds that they're little crass heathens, but she plays a very innocent 15-year-old, and she plays it perfectly. So I really, really like that. And then Sunspots for episode 2, they said the fact that Daigo chose an activity for the meal rather than just cooking for them is perfection. That scene made me fall in love with Daigo immediately, because she approaches the situation with incredible emotional intelligence without ever drawing attention to what she is doing. Before Makio could even get fully trapped inside any kind of overthinking about how much she should be letting Asa do, Daigo cuts through the paralysis by providing momentum and silliness and a structured activity. And her personality and mannerisms ease things so well, I feel. I agree 100%. I hadn't considered it in that light, but it's so true. Like, Daigo had structured it and knew exactly what she was doing so that she could get an activity to get Makio and Asa talking with one another, and to kind of like alleviate some of the tension. Like, Daigo needs to be a counselor or a teacher. Like, girl is made for that role. Like, she has got that personality on lock. I love that. But yeah. So anyway, thank you all so much for your comments. I've really appreciated them. My dog has decided that I need to throw this to him while we watch Journal with Witch, even though I've played with him. I played with him like, you all won't believe me, but I do throw this ball. We've been throwing it for like an hour while I've been doing laundry, and he's still at it. So I'm like, he's 9. He's not lost energy, and that's okay. So anyway, thank you all so much for joining me and watching Journal with Witch. We're not going to waste any more time. We are going to start episode 4 of Journal with Witch, and we are going to get that party started here in 3, 2, 1, and let's do it to it. Oh my gosh. This is episode 4 of 13, and we are setting up some very intriguing things. Some very intriguing things indeed. Ooh! Oh, there's a lot to break down in this episode, and I like how this episode is not pulling any punches as to how these characters feel, how these characters are reacting one another, but also having like mature conversations. Even when the characters themselves are not the most mature. So I could have brought Whiteboard Coon out for all the characters in the high school, but I figure like, we're gonna get them anyway. But I want to start this episode and talk about it with y'all, because it's got a lot of things we can dive into. So here in 3, 2, 1, I'm gonna get these screenshots pulled up here beside you, but to just start us off with all of it, what's interesting is this scene itself alone with Makio going out to meet with her friends, and she's kind of running behind and she's kind of scattered, and Asa's like, well, I was going to heat up something pre-made. And I like that Makio encourages her. She's like, no, she's like, we've got meat and onions and peppers. You should make this. She's like, here, I'll message you the recipe. Like, that little moment alone is like Makio being a guardian, being an adult for Asa when she needs an adult. I like the idea that the show is presenting Makio as saying, I'm not her foster mom, I'm not her mother. And I really like that because I don't feel like it's fair to make Makio be a mother when she may not want to be. I think that's a big part of her character. I think that's why her and Kasamichi had a little bit of disagreement because he wanted her to be a mom, because he wanted to be a father, and she's like, I don't want that, and that's a deal breaker for them. Now, we're going to talk about Kasamichi. We're going to talk about that man. I'm like, you are so suave, Kasamichi. You are smooth. But I respect him. We're going to talk about it, but I definitely feel as if the show does a really good thing here by having Makio be Asa's guardian. She's like, I am an adult when she needs an adult presence. Like, Asa's at that age where she's 15, she's questioning things. She's also questioning her feelings as they're transitioning through puberty into adulthood. And I kind of feel like Asa is lucky to have Makio, because a lot of times when you're talking with a parent about these difficult emotions, parents sometimes, not always, I'm speaking from personal experience and what I've seen with friends, but sometimes parents don't want to have those really big, hard discussions because then that parent is afraid that this is my child, and if they've gone through trauma, they're like, am I going to pass on my trauma to this child? Is it going to be like a generational thing? And there becomes this awkwardness with parents talking to their kids about stuff that maybe they feel they're not equipped to talk about. And I've had experiences with my own family, and I've seen people have experiences with their family where it just, those conversations can get difficult sometimes because there is this connection. And it's the weirdest thing. It's the most ironic thing. You'd think the connection would make it easier, but sometimes it doesn't. And I think it almost is easier in this case with Makio and Asa because there is a barrier there. There is a separation there. Not necessarily a barrier, but Asa's not her daughter. So she doesn't have to worry about, oh, are you going to grow up to be a mom like me? Like one of those things. She doesn't have to worry about that. Asa's not her kid. So that's what I mean. There's not that expectation. So she can have a conversation with Asa that's very honest and blunt, but is maybe what Asa needs to hear. So, and we'll talk about the whole, like, the loneliness talk on the couch. That's going to be the thumbnail for sure. But we're going to talk about that when we get to it. We're nowhere near it. But I like that Makio is, in her own way, not being maternal necessarily, but she's being an adult, being like, don't eat the pre-made stuff. Like make some food. You'll have leftovers and it'll be fine. And I'll have some leftovers too later. Like, she gets Asa to, like, be a little more self-sufficient. And I appreciate that. She's like, I'll send you the recipe. And she's like, okay. And you can see her on her phone, she's talking to Amiri, which I wanted to call Amelia in the episode, but she's talking to Amiri and going from there. Yeah, and she's like, have a good time. So what I find interesting is Kotoko and the other girl. Yeah, Kotoko, and then is it Katsu or what is her name? Matsu and Kotoko. So they're the friends alongside Daigo. All four of them went to school together. They've remained friends after all these years. They've apparently been married, divorced, had boyfriends like Makio, all that stuff. And I love that their friendship is so easy and it's so effortless. Like, you can just see them all hanging out as friends and they instantly just click in that moment. And I love how the series makes them so different. Like, they're different face shapes. Like, Daigo has a very square face. She has a very square face. And then I guess it's Makoto maybe has like the round face, and one has like really like a thin oval face. Like, they all look different. They don't look like cookie cutters. They all look like different friends. And I like that the show, without having to say it, even though they're eating the same food and drinking the same beer, they all, like, their appearance gives off this air of people with different experiences, different personalities coming together, right? I also love the fact that Daigo changes her nail color with every outfit. Love that for her. I'm good to remember to put nail polish on a good day. Like, this nail polish is legit 3 weeks old and it's about chipped to hell. I've got to redo it, like, maybe tonight if I think about it. But yeah, I'm terrible with nails. I'm like, whatever. But I love their friendship. It's so sweet. And what's interesting is that Makio has no trouble in this sense. In this realm, she talks about how she struggles around people. But I feel like Makio, in her own way, in this, we talked about like neurodivergency and stuff from episode 1, but Makio has to feel safe to be around people. And with these 4, she feels safe. So she can be around them and it's not suffocating or overwhelming because she's, developed these feelings over time with these 3 women, and she feels like this is a place she can be herself and isn't, stifled and suffocated by society. I feel like suffocated by society is a good way to put it, because these 3 all seem very different, unique in their own ways, and they all seem like they don't kind of follow the same path, and they all go to the beat of their own drum, and Makio respects that, And I totally agree. Like, there's no feeling like being in a group of a small knit connected group of people that you've known since you were kids. Like, I'm friends with a few people from high school still, even 20 years later, and we still get together, not as often as we should, but still get together, and it's like you feel that bond, right? And that's rare, and that's something you should treasure. And I think Makio is very lucky to have her friends like this. But yeah, and she feels safe where she can talk about Asa and not be like overwhelmed or be judged, right? Because one of the things I think she hated about her sister is that she thinks her sister judged her, and she thinks her sister thought less of her. And whereas her friends, they don't think less of her. They treat her as an equal. I also like the fact that, Daigo's a talker. Daigo's a chit-chatter. And so the 2 other women, they can, Makio can kind of like settle into the background and fade into the background and not be, it kind of fits her novelist persona, because, a novelist often observes. Like when I was taking creative writing classes in school, one of our exercises, they'd be like, okay, go to a coffee shop, sit there for 30 minutes and just eavesdrop. And that seems like an invasion of privacy, but they're like, just eavesdrop, unless the conversation seems personal, and you shouldn't do that, and write down dialogue. And that's how you'll know how people naturally talk, based on how they talk in public. And it's like, it's a good exercise, and they said go to like a coffee shop or something, because usually people aren't going to talk about life-changing, dire things in a coffee shop in public, So they were like, it's a safe space to do that. People are going to talk about random things. You meet up with friends and you chit-chat about school. It's like nothing personal, usually. But I feel as though this is the type of setting that's perfect for Makio, because she can kind of fade into the background. Daigo and the friends can talk, and Makio's present. She can answer. She can do all these things, but she's not like put on the spot. I feel as if when Emiri is over, she's put on the spot, and she doesn't like that. And that's why she offered to go to the first day of school ceremony, but I think she wouldn't have liked it. I think she would have felt the same way. And I wonder if Kasamichi, if when he talks about being too arrogant, if one of his things was he wasn't considering her feelings, and then she got overwhelmed and got mad at him, and he's like, I messed up. So we'll see about Kasamichi as we go, but I love how they set this up, right? Like, she starts high school next week, and they're like, no wonder you're so tired. And she's like, having someone around constantly is enough to tire me out. And they're like, are you technically her foster mom? And she's like, no, I'm her legal guardian. It's like, not sure what that entails. And they're like, well, then it's not like you've adopted her. And Daigo's like, you should probably check into that. And she's like, I don't think I can take on a responsibility like that. I mean, we're barely related. That part there, I'm like, girl, she's your mom's daughter. Let's be real. And they all like, I like Daigo is like, sure, barely related. Yeah, okay. I do feel for Makio though. I feel for her, because that is an enormous responsibility. An enormous responsibility. Two of my cousins, their uncle passed when they were very young from a terminal illness, and my aunt, she had at the time, which they're both over 18 now, so they can take care of themselves, but at the time, she put me down as like her basically of their guardian. She's like, if anything happens to me, you're going to take care of them, right? And I was like, okay. And I remember at the time I was really like, oh yeah, I could totally do that. And now looking back in hindsight, I would have been I would have been so overwhelmed. Like, I would have loved it, and I love them, and I would have been happy to do it, but I would have been so tired and so overwhelmed. And I get where Makio's coming from, because, you know, it's, you know, taking care of anybody else is a big deal. And, you know, she's like, I'm a loner. I'm a lone wolf. I'm isolated. I don't know what to do about that. Okay, so here's the recipe. She said, saute some meat, onions, and peppers. Add dashi seasoning and curry paste and cook it down. It'll go with rice or udon. And she's like, I thought it might be good with tomatoes, and it turned out like hayashi rice. Okay. So that's cool. That sounds simple enough. Something easy for her to make. And they're like, that's so cute. Totally. She's a good kid, though she can be a bit immature. I cower at the thought of her being that woman's child. So this episode is called Cower, and Makio is, let's have a grammar lesson, let's have a grammar lesson. Shrink back, crouch, or bend low in fear. To bend low in fear of her being that woman's child. I feel like Makio is afraid that Asa will come to treat her like her sister treated her. And that blossomed her hatred towards Asa's mother, and she doesn't want that to happen. And she's afraid that she's going to have to go through the same thing with Asa that she did with Asa's mom. And Daigo, she's like, do you mean you can't love her? And then that's when we cut to the scene. I love that in this entire episode, we had 3 moments of 3 different people seeing visions of another person. And it's either Makio's sister or Makio, and it's like the way that they handle flashbacks of that person standing there and being there and pointing at them, even if they're in the room in the present, is so good. I'm saying this because you're so hopeless. She's like, I know it's not her fault. I should treat her fairly regardless. So yeah, Makio's like, look, I know that Asa is not my mother, my sister. She's her mom. She's like, so I should treat her fairly. She's like, but in the back of her mind, that lingering presence of Makio's sister is there. Interesting. So yeah, this one woman that they're like, you did what? And she was like, well, isn't that arson? She's like, oh, not for real. I only hold grudges. And they're like, this woman is like doing the Gendo pose there, like Matsu, like stay away from her. She's terrifying. I'm like, oh no. Also, how these women mix. Look, I don't really drink alcohol anymore because it completely ruins my system. But I'll tell you for damn sure, I don't mix liquors. No, it's beer before liquor. You've never been sicker. Isn't that the phrase? Liquor before beer, you're in the clear. Beer before liquor, you've never been sicker. Like, they started out with beer and now they're on wine. Oh, hell no, girl. You don't mix that. Were their stomachs tanks? Yeah. We were just think back to when we were 15. I love this part here where I love how they all kind of look the same, but they show the montage of how they've all grown up with real adult experiences like marriage and divorce. I guess maybe Daigo's had the divorce. Who would have thought back then? She looks exactly the same. And so does she. She's like, I screwed up at work the other day. And they're like, again? Yeah. It was so bad. See, I love that. And then they all, well, okay. So 2 of them have wine. And one of them has a white wheat ale. And the other one has like, Daigo has like a little a tequila sunrise. Interesting. Okay. Shingo Kasamichi. Oh my god, this guy's such a dork! I love him! I love him! I know that it's tradition to give your business cards in Japan, but him giving the business card to Asa, he's so freaking cute! Makio, you fool! You fool! He has the voice of Junichi Sawabe! Lock that shit down! She is lucky. She is lucky this man has it in for her. She is so lucky. If this adorkable man in his sweater and his little like button-up shirt with his cute haircut and his sexy ass voice came up, I'd be done. I'd be done. Done. Over. Where's the wedding chapel? Here's my box. Let's go. I've already tossed the bouquet. I love Kasamichi. Just basically what I'm saying. Oh! Yeah. I was like 2 episodes ago, I was like, I don't know if he's my type. And now I'm like, da 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 da. No, everything about him in this episode, stop. I just, love it. Love it so much. Can we all just revel in it? So yeah, Asa's like, okay. She's like, I've never gotten a business card before. She's like, he's so grown up. And that's, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, Shingo is an adult of all adults, you know. I like that he seems like a good balance to Makio. Because Makio can be, she's very blunt and she's very honest. And I love that about her. And I wouldn't change that about her. But she also is so aloof that she kind of just gets lost in her own thoughts and she kind of gets lost in the clouds and then is like, oh yeah, need to get back to earth. Shingo seems very grounded. He seems very much like, I did the thing. I got the thing. I did, which he handles like insurance and stuff or like legal things. So he would need to be grounded. But I feel like him being grounded is a good balance to her being kind of lofty. And she's like, oh, it's wrapped in this nice paper and everything. And she's like, oh, aren't you staying for dinner? He's like, I can't stay that long. And she's like, well then, but here's the thing. For someone, like, they're on amicable terms and they're friends, and that's great. But, you know, when he says, oh, I can't stay for dinner and stay that long, she's like, well, can I get you something to drink? If she didn't want him there, she'd be like, oh, that's too bad. Well, maybe next time. She asked him to stay for a drink, girl. And she might have just been polite, but, you know, there's maybe some subconscious stuff there going on. And then Asa's like, they seem to get along in this vibe. Yeah, and he's like, is this? She's like, it's good, isn't it? They've got to be dating. We're going to talk about his conversation with her. But yeah, we're going to talk about that conversation. But yeah, they do have a chemistry. They have a very easygoing, like they, even after everything that's happened, it's not awkward. It's not weird. She's just like, yeah, whatever. She seems like the type of person that doesn't, well, she does hold a grudge. But she seems like she doesn't let it bother her too much, except when it comes to the sister. And he, on the other hand, he has long since forgiven her. He's acknowledged that it's his fault that they broke up. And he's like, I'm going to make this work. I'm like, I wonder, here's the thing. I wonder if he thinks that she has changed because she's taken in Asa. I wonder if he thinks this woman who didn't want to have a family, who didn't want to get involved with anything like that, maybe since she's taken an Asa, that means that maybe she's changed a little bit. Maybe she's like developed this type of, like, she'd be fine with it. What he doesn't realize, if that's the case, is that no, not necessarily she's changed. This is just something completely different. And it's going to be interesting to see how Kasamichi and Makio's relationship goes. But I am rooting for him. I think he would be a good fit for her. I think, you know, and I have nothing against people who want to stay single and be alone. I mean, pot calling the kettle black. But I do think that, I think that it's going to be interesting because Asa's whole deal is loneliness and Makio's is suffocation. I could see, because he's very doting, he's very grounded, but he seems also a little more traditional in his idea of relationships and familial structures. I could see how he would maybe be suffocating to her because he's too much of society's expectations that she tends to steer away from. So that's my only fear. I want them to get together because I think that they have great chemistry and I think that he really likes her and she seems like she likes him, but I'm very curious to see what's going to happen. I don't want to see this man's heart get broken again. It happened off screen the first time. I don't want to see it happen again. But also she's very, again, he's very grounded and she's like, well, we're out of milk. I'm going to go get milk. Bye. And she's like, well, and he seems to understand she's a teenager, and so she drank all that milk. He's like, oh, she's an adolescent, that's how it works. And she's like, I can't have my coffee without milk, bye. And she's like, let me know if you need something. And leaves Asa alone with this big man. And he's like, yep, that sounds about right. The thing is, he seems fine with it. He seems like he is into her freak. He is into that freak. He is all about it. He's like, that's a novelist for you. So yeah, their first meeting, he's like, she's different, isn't she? She's like, yeah. And then she's like, this line here. Let's talk about this. Are you Makio-chan's boyfriend? And she's just like, are you her boyfriend? And he's like, oh, well, you are not exactly like your aunt, so that's good to know. You're not exactly like them. All right. And then this line, I'm not. Not right now. Shut up. Because what he could have said, what I thought he was going to say was, no, I was her boyfriend, but we're exes. That is not what he says. That is some freaking Parent Trap stuff there. Lindsay Lohan, the guy's like, I don't know, maybe down the road. Sir. He's like, I'm not right now. He could be. That is implying that he could be. And she's like, not right now. We were friends before that and have been since. Because what does he say there? She's like, not right now. It almost feels like something was cut out there, or that the translation is off, because the way that he says it makes it sound like, we were together before and we've been friends since then. He says our feelings could change tomorrow. Who knows? Sir! I mean, I hope they do. And then she's like, why did you break up? And of course he's like, it's a sore subject. Why would he want to talk about it? And he's like, well, and I love that he's like reminiscing and she says, you don't get it. Yep. You wouldn't understand, Kasamichi-kun. Ooh. And her hair is really a lot shorter back then. So he said something to her that made her very upset. I don't know if it had to do with with Asa's mom. I don't know if it had to do with like him wanting them to be a family and she said no and he didn't get like why it would be a big deal to her. I don't know. We don't know exactly what the reasoning was, but he goes, it was my fault. I got too arrogant. But yeah, so he seems like he's like, yep, I screwed up. I ruined the chance to be with her and now we're just friends. He's like, but this man is still, he is holding a torch for her. He is holding a candle. If you asked him to spread the rose petals down the hallway, he would have already gone to the store and already got it done. This man is into her. And Asa's like, okay. And I love this line he says. He says, adults are much more sensitive than you youngsters might think. I love that he says you youngsters. What a dad. But yeah, that's so true. Like a lot of times when you're a kid, you think that adults have it all figured out or that they're mentally and physically tougher. And that is not true. Not at all. No. That's like that's the horrifying secret of growing up. It doesn't get easier. It gets better. A lot of times it gets better. If you had a really shitty high school life in high school, then guess what? It gets better because when you get out of high school, you don't have to see those people every day. So it gets better. If you had a really shitty upbringing, guess what? It gets better because you can get out of that house, hopefully. You can get out of that house and go on your own and move away from them and you don't have to be around them. So that gets better in that sense. If you don't like where you live, it gets better. You can move when you get older. So, I mean, these are all, presuming privileges allowed to a population. But yeah, things can get better when you're an adult, but they don't get easier. Nope. They do not get easier. They often get harder and more complicated and more stressful. But they aren't necessarily, they can get better, but they don't get easier. And he's like, adults are a lot more sensitive than you may think. He's like, to fill you in, my visit today wasn't just to meet you. I wanted to see how she's doing. That's interesting because nobody's really talked about that. They've all been like, oh, Makio, you've taken in Asa. How's she doing? How's it going raising her and stuff? And they've asked like how she is. But I feel like with Shingo, he's just like, I want to see how she's doing. I want to make sure she's okay. And I feel as if Asa in this moment has assumed that since Makio hates her mom, aka her sister, that she wouldn't have a problem. Because Makio was put on this front in front of Asa that since the mother has died, the sister, she's like, you know what? I didn't like her. I hated her. I feel sorry for you, but I didn't like her. She's put on this big old front that she's not sad. And that she's like, I don't feel anything from this. It doesn't affect me. But I'm like, it does. It just, you're not letting yourself grieve. You're not letting yourself mourn. You're holding it in. You're burying that as far as it'll go, but it's eventually going to come out. And I feel like Shingo knows that. And he's like, she hasn't been able to mourn. It's only a matter of time. He's like, I'm just making sure she's okay and seeing how she's doing. And then that's when he's like, you know, but don't tell her. What a smooth son of a bitch. Girl needs to make this the Parent Trap. She's like, okay, we'll get them together. Like, girl, how grown up. Yeah, he is a grown-ass man. Okay, so the Heisei 29 enrollment guide. So this is the school. Obviously, this school does not have free lunches. You know, in hindsight, in the U.S., depending on where you are from, a lot of schools offer free lunches. And it's a contested debate. I personally believe that a school should offer lunch to its students. That should be part of a service that a school provides. And it doesn't seem like much, but my dad worked as a custodian and then as one of the cooks at my grade school and high school. He basically followed me throughout my education, but he worked there and he would talk all the time about how some of the kids he saw, and it would break your heart because he's like, some of the kids I see come in like 20 minutes before everybody else gets there because they're embarrassed that they don't have food at home. And they don't have a breakfast. And it breaks my heart. He'd be like, you know, they'd get there early to eat because they didn't have anything. And in the school, we were lucky the school I went to was a tiny school, like 100 kids in it, like really small. But the school was able to give like breakfast to the students and lunch to the students for free, which was nice. And it wasn't much. It was like, you know, people always complained about the food, but it was free. But like the kids that took advantage of that, sometimes that was the only food they got during the day. And so it really made me sad. Like, and this is kind of like, that does get expensive. Like, making your own food is fine. I have the hardest time with meal prep, though. Like the bento boxes, I have a few bento boxes that I bought to kind of make up things. And I like bento boxes, but I'm one of those people that I can eat leftovers the next day, but then I want something different. I'm not a like the meal prep people that eat like the same lunch all week. I can't do that. I need some variety. It's just, I can't do it. So I don't know if you all have ever had the bento box lunch. I mean, I guess you can make it different, but bento boxes are also kind of complex. Also, I really like that here, you know, you have Makio. This is such a tiny little thing. Two tiny things. One, Asa has the cup from her house. So there's that. Two, I like that Kasamichi is sitting on the couch and they're at the table. It creates this, like, he's setting a boundary, which I really appreciate. Because he could have sat in front of her. He could have offered to sit in front of her so he could be closer to her. But he's setting a boundary where it's their table. He's a guest. He sits at the couch. Like, it's a little tiny thing, but it's him being a gentleman. And I'm all about a gentleman. He's like, that could cost a fortune. He's like, I made my own bento boxes sometimes. So Kasamichi's basic lunch. All right, any kind of meat with yakiniku sauce. This would be the lunch I would make. I would like some boiled broccoli, microwaved rice. I don't like pickled vegetables. I like pickles, pickled cucumbers. I like pickles. Those are the only pickled vegetables I like. Everything else I'm like, but I don't like vinegar. Like somehow when a cucumber absorbs vinegar, it works. Everything else that absorbs vinegar, I'm like, not the same. So yeah, the microwave rice though, that is, what a legend. I'm right there with you, my dude. In the Tupperware, made in his PJs. Please, like, don't ask me for a good time. Meal prepping with Kasamichi? What? Oh, this like crushing in your 30s. It's like meal prepping in your PJs. Sir. With that voice, but this is really cute. I like that Asa's like, I don't want Tupperware. Like, she's like, I don't want to be Unk. I don't want Tupperware like this old man. He's like, of course. She's like, what are you supposed to put in bento boxes? He says, my parents only ever made the brown stuff. but it was good. And he said, we're down for brown. Down for brown could be taken in a very, very sexual way. We're not going to go there. What is the brown stuff? So I want to know what the brown bento box. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's like a dark sauce or something. I don't know what that means. Anybody else, if you all want to chime in what he meant by the brown stuff, like what is that? Someone explain that. She says my parents were against the tiny tomatoes. Yeah. He's like, my parents even kept a bento journal. That's kind of cute. I mean, they make cookbooks for bento boxes, so I know people that keep like recipes and like collect all those together. I bet they were perfect in their minds. But raising a kid and loving them were two separate concepts. Ooh. That gives us a little bit into Kasamichi right there. Like he kind of gives a little bit of an admission that his parents tried to be perfect parents, but maybe weren't great parents, which is interesting. So to me, and I'm no psychiatrist, I'm just psychoanalyzing Shingo's character. I wonder if he has always wanted the chance to be a father to maybe prove that he's not like his parents, or to prove that he can father differently than them and offer a kid like something that he didn't have. That's the vibe I get from Shingo, but I don't know if that's exactly what he's going for. He's like, what I mean to say is don't worry about it too much. And I like that I could see why Makio likes him, because he is kind of introspective, and he is kind of like, he has like it's hard to explain. He gives off a romantic vibe without being schmaltzy. Yeah, he's not like, he gives off a romantic like dad vibe without being like cheesy or, over the top with it, or like kind of like snooty. No, he's really grounded. And I could see why she would like him. Yeah, I'm totally crushing on Shingo. Just FYI. And she's like, Makio, do you have a bento box? And she's like, no, we gotta buy one. Also, look at this man doing the dishes for them. This man did the dishes? This man brought the meat. He stayed and had a chit chat. He did the dishes. Sign him up. I could see why he would do well with her, because she is, I don't want to use the word slob. She's not a slob necessarily, but she is rather forgetful she gets distracted and lost in her work, which I can 1,000 times relate to. And this man seems like the type that he cleans up after. He would keep things in order. And I'm like, oh girl, get that man in your life, please. And then she said, Makio-chan. She's like, my mom would always call you that. She would say, Makio-chan's a novelist. All the time. That paints such an interesting picture. So the way Asa says it, though, the way Asa says that my mom always said Makio-chan's a novelist, it's like there's no, in Asa's mind, there was no malice there. The mom was just like, oh, Makio-chan's a novelist. Like, yep, that's what she does. But in Makio's mind, the Chan almost takes on like not like a condescending tone, where the mom is like, aren't you embarrassed living in a fantasy world like this? A novel of all things. Why don't you face reality already? Like that, I can see the fabric of how Makio disliked her sister, because her sister disregarded to her face and made fun of her aspirations and dreams and what she finds of value. Her sister just dismissed all of it as nonsense. So I can see why she'd be mad. I can see why she wouldn't like her. But what's interesting is that when it comes to her talking to Asa does not ever seem like the mom said anything bad about Makio, which is curious. And Shingo's like, are you okay? And he's like, I should probably get going. This is interesting, though. I wanted to talk about this, though. Because this is where there's a little work to be done. And I get what he's doing. Because he immediately senses that something's wrong, that she's having a potential episode but he is afraid that there's a boundary here and he's afraid to cross it. He's like, I'm not her boyfriend. I'm not her confidant. I'm not her partner. I'm a friend, but I'm not close enough where I can ask her if things are okay beyond just what I've just asked. Because I think in the past, he might have asked her that and went a little further, and that caused her to blow up. And he's like, I'm not doing that. Not in front of Asa. Not here, not now. So he's like, I'll come by again, but I'm going to get going because maybe my presence is making you unhappy. And maybe he thinks that that she's getting upset because he's there. Maybe he knows that she doesn't like being around people for too long. And he's like, I've overstayed my welcome. I don't know. I want to see them have a conversation, but he's like, can I come again? Should I say that? And Asa's like, please come back. Asa's like pushing Makio out of the way. She's like, please come back. Please join us. She's like, please do. And she's like, well, this is my place, you know. She's like, Kasamichi-kun, can I have your line ID? And he said, sure. I feel like that's her getting overwhelmed. Like, I feel as if Makio was getting overwhelmed by not having her own space that's her own, that she feels safe and comfortable in. And so when people start to get encroaching that space, she starts to get uncomfortable. And Asa, meanwhile, is like, I'm lonely. I need people to talk to, please. That bento box is adorable. It's super cute. I love that. So here we have a enrollment agreement. Guardian's name is Makio Kodai. She's the aunt. There's the agreement there. And then I want to see what she wrote in her little journal. Oh, yeah. So the bento box cookbook. There's all that. She has her uniform. It's super cute. And then she's making her little, there's a little envelope there. I guess that's from her getting accepted. And she has in her journal. What I find interesting is that she leaves the journal open. Like, Makio holds up in her room and kind of like crowds around her computer. But then she says here, yeah, it says EVAL. I wonder what that is. Shingo. Oh, it's his business card. Oh, okay, it's Shingo's business card. She saved it in the journal. Oh my gosh. Also, that logo and everything, that's a pretty serious business card. She said, I'm starting the high school today. I'm excited for the entrance ceremony. I'm meeting Amiri by the school entrance at 8:20. I love that she leaves the journal open. And Makio's like, well, why would you do that? And I feel like Makio and Asa's understanding of the journal and what it does, it encapsulates both of their struggles perfectly. Makio views the journal as a safe space because it can be enclosed within her, and all of those thoughts that she has are for her and her alone. She can close off from others. She can get away from the suffocation of society. She can write down what she wants. She doesn't have to share it with anyone. It's her own thoughts, her own feelings, and they are hers alone, and they're tucked away in this little secret place. And for her, that's what a journal should be. Asa, after this episode, has revealed that Asa is begging for someone to come into her life and to help her alleviate her loneliness and her self-isolation that she feels. So leaving that journal open is like leaving it open for someone to come in and maybe write something in the journal. So it'd be cool if it would be really cool if Makio started writing in the journal, like a little note in the corner being like her thoughts or something. I don't think she'd ever do that because to her, like, infringing upon someone's journal is sacred. I mean, the mom seems like, the sister seems to have found the book and maybe it was her journal and she was reading it like it was a novel. Maybe it was that. We'll see. But I feel like Asa leaving it open is like begging for someone to come into her life. And she's like, I don't care if you read it. And she's like, I don't get you. So she says she's off. She's like, are you sure you don't need me to come? And then she says, no, it's all good. I can kind of understand Asa's perspective. Like, Amiri's mom thinks it's weird that Makio doesn't come. But I kind of feel like for Asa, she wants to stand out. She wants to make, a big statement going into high school, but she also wants to kind of let it be her moment. So I feel like her being able to control whether Makio is there or not gives her some sense of agency in that moment, right? Whereas if Makio felt obligated to go, it might take away from that agency and remind her of what was going down. So yeah. Also, man, the genetic gene pool in Amiri's side of the family pretty strong. Her and her mom look exactly the same. But yeah, I'm so glad they're going to the same high school. Even though it seems like they're in different classes, they're still together in high school. So that's nice. That's good. And she's like, and so at least the mom does apologize. I'm glad that she does. And she's like, say hello to your aunt. Where is she? And then we realize that she's not there. And she's like, if you ever have a hard time telling her anything, I can always talk to her. I appreciate the mom is trying to be good and have that sentiment, but Asa's like, no, you don't understand. This is fine. She's like, isn't it strange for you to be here alone? She's like, well, she's not my mom. And that's when Amiri's like, let's not get any further into this conversation. Not on the first day of school. But yeah, that's going to be interesting because Makio and Asa have developed a clear separation of we are just living together. I'm your guardian. I didn't want you to be alone, so I'm here with you. But it's clearly she still feels lonely. But we're going to talk about that when we get to it. But there is going to have to be this... Makio kind of says, she's like, I'm fond of you, and I think fondly of you, but I don't love you like a daughter. There's going to be something to that in this season. Like, that's going to be building between the two of them, right? So, yeah. We get everybody sitting down, waiting for the entrance ceremony to start. And I like that Amiri is like, it's our high school debut. Like, we can wear makeup now. We can, like, show off and do all these things. She's like, our rules sucked in middle school. And she's like, well, I've got to sit over there, so I'll catch you later. Meanwhile, we get this cute kid. She's like our high school. So yeah, Yoshimura, he seems nice enough. He's like the most generic high school boy. And so he gives her a thing and then talks to this big guy about baseball. He's like, good luck. He seems cute enough. He's all right. We'll give him a pass. Okay, no, this is a different guy. So the baseball guy is different than the guy that she meets from her class. Okay. This girl's cute. She seems super shy. Love her. Yeah, Sone. Asuka Sone. I thought of Asuka from Neon Genesis, and then when I saw her parents, I'm like, no, never mind. And so then we have Asuka. Did we get her name? Okay, Asa and Yumi Kanda. Call her Khan. So we have Khan, we have Asuka. She has her own business card, which is super cute. Yumi Kanda, love that for her. Love that. And then this big guy, he's so cute. He's like so friendly. She's like, nice to meet you. Yudo Togo, the judo guy, he's huge. This man is enormous. For being a high school kid, he is a big old guy. But he seems so sweet. I was like, aw. Like, I like Yudo. Yudo Togo, he seems like a really cute guy. Cool. How tall is 186 centimeters? Like, centimeters to feet. Let's see, 186. Oh, he's 6'1". Wow. Okay, so for a high school kid, 6'1" is pretty good. I am 176 centimeters. I'm like 5'8", so close. But yeah, interesting. Okay. Yeah. So then they have the inaugural dress, and so Chio Morimoto, so Asa's making friends over there. What do they say there? She's like, no way, I love that too. Chio Morimoto, she is the it girl. Man, I was immediately thinking of Bloomin' to You. I don't know if you've seen that series, but the moment I saw her, I thought two things. One, she reminds me of Makio. She has that pale, like dark-haired, kind of layered, aloof look to her. Two, she looks like one of the leads in Bloomin' to You. And I was like, okay, all right. But yeah, she's the class president. So then we have this conversation where they're walking back and Asa's with her new friends. She's got Khan and Chio and Asuka and Togo, like all of them, Yoshimura, and I don't know if that's Yoshimura or not. He looks like he has a little more hair. But they're all talking about like their families and how their families react to things. And Asa, in her attempts to stand out, she kind of just fades away because she doesn't have anything really to say because her parents are gone. And she can't connect to them. And the way that she says it, also Asuka's parents, super cute. Love that. She's like, every family are... I like the one guy says every family is the same way. And she's like, well, my parents aren't here. I feel bad for her, but she's like, well, not every family is the same. Mine is very different. They died in a car accident. And she says it so nonchalant, but I mean, how else are you going to say it? How else are you going to say it? You know, she's kind of like, there's no good way to say my parents died in a freak car accident, you know, a few months ago. I live with my aunt now. She's a novelist. And they're like, wow, that sounds like the plot of a movie. Is that not cool to say? She's like, no, it's fine. But I got to make my own lunch now. And they're like, wow, you know, that's pretty interesting. So I felt for Asa because I don't think they judged her. I don't think that they thought she was weird. I thought they were like, oh wow, oh gosh, that's crazy. But she instantly feels isolated and alone because she can't connect to them. And that's so sad. I also felt bad that Amiri didn't walk home with her from school, which maybe they live away. And she's like, oh, I messed up. And that's such a teenage thing to think, that you've messed up on the first day. Like, she's overthinking and judging how the day went, when I'm like, girl, they probably didn't think anything of it. You know? And then she gets home. And I like that Makio got her pizza. And it's like, it's your big day. Didn't you want pizza? And didn't you ask for that before? And she's like, oh, well, at the entrance ceremony today, she's like, this is what I did. And she's like, oh. And what her response is, she cracks and goes, huh. And that's all she says. And she's like, well, the food's going to get cold. I definitely feel as if Makio did not know how to respond to that. And so she was just like, huh. Like, she just didn't know how to respond. So thus she didn't. And Asa was expecting a reaction. And then she's like, do you care if I start eating? That part there, like Makio, I love Makio. I do feel like this part here, when she doesn't know what to do or what to say, she does kind of like retreat into herself and act a little selfishly. Because like Asa is clearly sad about what happened and she's looking for some adult advice. And Makio's like, I'm not the one to give you that. That's why I wish that Shingo was here. I feel like Shingo would at least give some like dad advice to her, you know, even if it's not perfect. And this is the part here. She's like, I expected her to be like, I loved the every time it was like, like every time. She's like, oh, well, don't be like that. How embarrassing. Or, well, that's how it is. Like first admonishing her, then saying, oh, like, well, it is what it is. And she's like, don't sweat it. Just watch yourself in the future. And then she's like, that was all in my head, but I was wrong. And then she sees her mom looking down at her, which is crazy. What a shot. To see her mom looking down at her in the mirror. Because, yeah, Asa was like, I was expecting her to either get on to me like my mom would have, to say, oh, it's no big deal, or to say, oh, you're going to rise above it and whatever. And she didn't get any of those. And then the mom says, don't be embarrassing. That's the way it goes sometimes. It's okay. You can be more careful next time. What's crazy is that she envisions her mom giving her all three bits of those advice. Like her mom getting onto her mom saying, hey, it's no big deal, and her mom saying, you're going to be fine. Like that to me shows me how Asa viewed her mother. Like her mother could be stern, but then her mother wouldn't judge her, but then she also would encourage her. And that's how Asa views her. And she's expecting that from Makio. And Makio is not like that at all. Yeah. And then we see Asa like as a younger kid with like the long hair. And seeing like her mom look down at her. I'm going to say that Asa takes after her dad, or she's not her biological daughter. But we don't know that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What a moment. She's like, I didn't know you liked to stand out. So we go back to them eating the pizza. And she's like, well, you know, sometimes I do. Sometimes I want to stand out. Is there anything wrong? And I do appreciate Makio being like, girl, I like standing out. And Asa's like, what? Really? But you like being a lone wolf? And she's like, I'm a novelist. Like, my whole job is standing out with my writing. Like, that's my career. She's like, people just they have to have the talent and the effort to stand out. You have to put in the work. She's like, I'm not going to hate it. I'm a novelist. I make my living writing out my fantasies and publishing them to the world. I would never judge someone for standing out. But I like that she says, talking about me isn't going to help you stand out. You need to stand out on your own. And that's when she encourages her to sing. So I wonder if she's like going to get in the music club or like a band. You're always humming to yourself. And that's when Asa says, my mother never liked bands. She's like, oh. And she's like, just spit it out. And she's like, well, it's your life after all. If you want to be in the band, you can, or you don't have to be. And in this moment, when she says, you know, I mean, it's your life, but your mom's not here to stop you. And I get what she meant. I get what Makio meant. Makio's like, oh, and there's a moment here in this conversation where Makio gets a little bit insensitive and she forgets that Asa is mourning a dead mother that she loved and feels isolated by losing her. And Makio's disdain for her sister takes over in that moment. Because I get what she meant. What she was meaning to say was, well, you know, no one's going to stop you from doing something that you love. No one should stop you from doing what you love. If you want to be in a band, if you want to sing, go for it. Who cares what anybody says? That's what she should have said. But instead she goes, well, your mom's dead, so you can do whatever you want. That's not what you should have said. And instead it immediately takes her to the desert. And it makes her seem like Makio is not with her in the desert, but is walking away from her. And that's like, she doesn't want to feel that way. And that prompts her to say, how come you hate her? And she's like, I'm not telling you. Like, she immediately clams up. Like, this is not the topic we talk about. She's like, I know you're a kid and you mean no harm, but you can't just pry into anything. This is a very sore subject. Like, whatever emotions she has towards her sister, they run really deep. And I think that it's not so much, I don't think it's so much that she hates her sister that much that she's so pissed that Asa asks her about it. I think that if they talk about it and she gets into it, she's going to feel really sad about her sister dying. And she doesn't want to go there. So she's like, become a cloister and bottled up. And it's like, we're not going to discuss it. She's like, I'll never tell you that. And Asa's like, oh my God, I'm sorry. And she's like, I'm not mad at you, but I'm going back to work. And that's a sad thing, is that Asa, you know, she's a teenage kid. You know, in this moment, I want to get that one shot of her. Like, she's a teenage kid. You just left her to go work on your stuff. And she's like, she's mourning. She needs someone to talk to and to comfort her. And you just kind of were like, peace out, because it was getting too real. So then Amiri comes over. And I like that they're like, we texted you. So I want to look at that text message. Yeah, it was like at 14:31, she's like, can Amiri come over? And at 15:37, I'm bringing her with her. To be fair, she did ask, and then an hour later say she's coming. So she did have time to respond. She's like, well, have fun. And then they talk about, you know, my mom would have been like, oh, thanks for keeping Amiri company. In the Takumi household, it'd always be like, please take care of Asa. So, and that's the thing too. Makio does not want to hear about her sister when she's like, I'm at my limit. Yeah, Makio not only does not want to hear about his sister, but she is about peopled out. And there's just too many in her safe space. She's like, did you see his tie? It was way too short. Like, I love that the way that they show her crashing out is very realistic and very subtle. It's just literally her like gripping the table and like, she's not yelling. She's not sweating. She's just like having a slight panic attack because she just can't stand all the peopling that's going on. And that's when she gets asked about the favorite snack. And then she's like, I really don't want a gift. She's like, I know you're trying to be polite, but she's like, I don't want anything. Tell her verbatim, I don't like formalities. Which is why I think, again, her and Shingo had some issues, because Shingo seems like somebody who is kind of about formalities. He kind of, you know, the structure of the family and wanting to be a good parent and kind of wanting to fit into what society deems as the status quo, and she's not about that life. She lives alone and writes novels. You know, she feels like she's separated from that world. And I think the thing is, I think Makio could be with Shingo and can be Asa's guardian and all that and not give up what she has. And again, we're going to be spending a lot of time with her character as she grows alongside Asa in these circumstances. But yeah, so I like that Amiri is like, hey, I'm headed out, but Asa fell asleep out of nowhere. She's out cold. And Makio's like, I see. And she's like, and this line here, this girl was threatening. Because that line and the way she stares at Makio was a threat. Because she's like, hey, Asa's fell asleep out of nowhere, which we, the audience, know that Asa gets overwhelmed by her grief. And then she just kind of like powers down. And Makio knows that. But Makio has accepted it and is just like, well, she's doing her own thing. But Amiri is recognizing that it is a sign of a bigger struggle. And she's like, I'm going to come back and check on her. Because I don't know if you're doing enough to check on her. Like, she's kind of like, you need to step up your game. Like, because I'm her friend and I care about her and you need to care about her too. Like, that was the way she stared at her. She's like, I'm going to check on her. It's like, she was throwing down the gauntlet to Makio, being like, you need to care about this. And then, yep. I love this scene where she gets everything ready. And then she's like, I made you food. It's on the dinner table. I like Amiri texted her in that moment saying, I made it. Are you up? Mm-hmm. And she's like, did you have dinner? And she's like, it's on the table. She's like, I'll eat later. And this shot here of them in the opposite room, like, because you have it separated. Asa sitting there eating the dinner by herself, wanting company, wanting somebody to connect with. And Makio is wanting to retreat into her room to escape everything because she's gotten overwhelmed. And it's like, what are these two to do? And then in that moment, like, I don't blame Asa for breaking down because, you know, the whole what a drag and like, I hate your mom and like all this. Like, I'm sure Asa feels isolated. She feels like a burden. She feels like, you know, she doesn't have anybody to connect with other than Amiri, but Amiri has her own life. So she's all by herself and she feels like maybe she's burdening Maki. She's like, I can't even guarantee that I'll love you. And then she's like, I hated my sister. I won't tell you why. And I feel for Asa because Asa's like, you know, her mom loved her. Her parents loved her, I'm sure. And now those people are gone and she's living with someone who has upfront told her that she might not love her and outright hates her mother. So she's like, is this woman going to hate me? Am I by myself? Am I, you know, I can't go stay with anybody else because they don't want me. So I'm glad Makio comes out when she hears her crying. And she's like, what's up? You know, like she sits on the edge of the couch and she's like, you know, I can't always be completely considerate of your feelings. And I can't understand your loneliness or anxiety as well. I feel like in a sense, she's trying to, it's like, I don't know, she's trying not to, we did this whole thing about mental health first aid at the school that I teach at. And it was about like you can't use personal experience. You're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to do that. And my coworkers and I were talking about like, we get, you don't want to like diminish someone's experience and anxiety by saying like, well, when I had this happen, here's what happened to me. Like, you don't want to do that. I get that that's what it means. But then we were like, on another level, you would think the person in that moment needs somebody to connect with. And if you can find a way to do it properly without making it about you, then having a relation to that person, some empathy or some connective sympathy with them is very helpful. And Makio seems like she's being clinical here, being like, well, I don't understand your loneliness and your anxiety. That's separate. That's all your own feelings. It's not me. And I'm like, but you get those feelings too. And she's like, is it because you hated mom? And she said, no, because I get very tired being around others. She's like, I can't even work unless I'm alone. And she's like, well, aren't you lonely that way? And she's like, and I like that Makio's like, no, I'm not lonely. She's like, I'm an introvert. I feel like Asa is not an introvert. She is kind of like a secret extrovert and doesn't realize it. But Makio is an introvert 1,000 times over. She's like, you can't understand the suffocation I feel, and I can't understand your loneliness. Mm-hmm. And then she sits down and puts her arm around her, though. I love that shot, though, where she's like, I'm trying to relate. we're gonna relate because we're stuck together. She's like, if I made you feel neglected, I apologize. So we're gonna talk it out. I love that. And she's like, even if we don't understand each other, and she says, because we don't understand each other. If Shingo Kasamichi could hear this conversation now, he'd be like, there is a chance. Because if she's like, we need to talk because we don't understand each other and we need to get to some like clarifications, he'll be like, glad to do so, you know, maybe. And then I like that Asa opens up and she says, well, I don't like eating alone. That's my first thing. And she's like, okay, if I lose track of time, you let me know. And she's like, if you ever, and I like that Makio says, if you want to talk, we're going to talk right then and there. So Makio's whole thing is she's like, I don't want to wait. We're going to communicate right in the moment and get it out of the way. Asa wants to eat with her. And she's like, are you okay with that? And she's like, even though you're not my parent, even though you don't love me. And I like that Makio does not come out and say, oh, I love you. She doesn't say that. Because I feel like to Makio, love is a strong feeling. Like, I feel like, I wonder if at some point in the story, Asa is going to, whether it's Shingo, whether it's Daigo, someone's going to say, girl, Makio doesn't say I love you because she knows the weight of that word. And she knows the weight that those words carry. She's a novelist. She's like, my hope is that you live a healthy life without despair. And I feel that way because I think fondly of you. She's like, I don't want to say that I love you, but I do think fondly of you. And she's like, I'm lonely. And I like that Makio's, I don't like it, but Makio's like, well, I can't do anything about that. But I was like, she's telling you, Makio doesn't know how to deal with it, but I'm like, Asa is revealing to you, like, her biggest, deepest, darkest secret. She's like, no, I'm lonely. And I like that Makio's like, well, I don't understand that, but I'm here. She's like, we're going to make this work. And I love that she's like, she accepted my loneliness, but couldn't understand it. I feel like Asa needs to tell somebody else that she's lonely and maybe they can help, like, figure out what to do. But I do love that Makio just accepts it. Water from an oasis can quench your thirst, but it won't become one with the body. She's like, Makio's, understanding can help to alleviate, but it's not gonna be a cure. She's like, no one can be one with anyone else. I do like that she comes to this conclusion. She's like, no one can fully understand our own feelings or how we are. That's just part of being human. We've never had any contact before. So she's talking to Kasamichi on the phone. She's talking to him. She's like, we never had any contact before this. I wonder if it's okay for a stranger like me to suddenly get so involved. Uh-huh. And she's like, oh, shush. Thanks. Bring some more meat sometime. Kasamichi, tell me, when do you feel lonely? This man is like in his apartment being like, bitch, you're asking me this question. What? And I feel like she called him. I wanted the answer to his question. When he feels lonely. I'm sure the answer is when I'm on the phone with you like this. I can't. How dare you? Show, that's so freaking cruel. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you? How dareth youeth? I'm not holding my breath that they're going to get together and all this, but damn it, I really want them to. I really want them to. And I want them to take care of Asa. But we'll see. So, anyway, I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. Please no spoilers. I'll be watching the series and I'll get to it. There were a couple comments from YouTube for episode 1 that I couldn't watch because the mods were like, yeah, they're spoiling things yet to come. And I was like, but anyway, I'm really excited to hear your thoughts about this episode. Shingo Kasamichi, marry me now. I am single and waiting. So, in any case, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yes! I'll be back next week with episode 5 of Journal with Witch. And I'll see you then.